As conflict intensifies in Israel and Gaza, the death toll continues to rise. Israeli media reports at least 900 people in Israel killed since Saturday's attacks. Palestinian officials say more than 680 people have been killed in Gaza. Hamas claims to have taken more than 100 people hostage. This conflict is rippling around the world. Here in Vancouver, earlier this afternoon, pro-Palestinian supporters rallied at the Vancouver Art Gallery. And this evening, a pro-Israel solidarity gathering is taking place as well. Dan Moskovitz is the senior rabbi at Temple Shalom in Vancouver. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
When this news hit, I don't know if you heard it Friday night or Saturday morning, what went through your mind?
Well, I was leading my congregation in prayer. It was Friday evening, which is our Sabbath, and also the beginning of a Jewish holiday, the very end of our High Holy Days, a holiday called Simchat Torah, where we celebrate the ending of the reading of the Hebrew Bible and the beginning of it once again in the annual cycle. And we dance with the Torah, we celebrate our children, we give them candy as they start their Jewish education. And as we left the synagogue to go home, my phone and radio started to I was listening to the CBC, honestly, and my phone started to blow up with messages from friends in Israel. I have an app on my phone that, because I go to Israel frequently, that tells me when rockets and sirens go off, and it started to explode as well with warnings. And I was just, at first I thought, oh, it's rockets again. We've learned to live with that. And then the reports started to come in about kidnappings and murders in homes and villages. And this was something I never imagined and unexperienced in my lifetime.
And so then what did you do over the course of the weekend?
Well, though we're supposed to refrain from technology and really be ensconced in prayer, I could not and needed to minister to my congregation and our community. We have about 35,000 Jews here in Vancouver. And so I was we were watching television, Israeli TV, late into the night. I was translating for my family as most of the stories were in Hebrew. I was on WhatsApp with my friends in Israel trying to see if they were safe, and some of them were not. Some of them were texting me from bomb shelters. Others couldn't find their children who had gone to a music festival. Congregants were telling me of loved ones who were not answering their phones and later we found out had been kidnapped or murdered. It's that personal. Everybody I know in the Jewish community knows somebody who has been directly affected. These 900 deaths are not 900 numbers. They are one and one and one, and each one of those is someone.
And so at this point, how many people do you think have been either taken hostage or killed that are from Vancouver or have very close ties to Vancouver?
I know of two in my congregation alone. One who has been kidnapped and the other who we don't know was at the music festival where 263 young people in their 20s who were at a desert rave, think Coachella kind of thing, were gunned down in cold blood at 6:30 in the morning as Hamas terrorists surrounded them in pickup trucks with machine guns and just started to mow them down.
So when you look at what's happening, what do you think the future holds? I guess when I look at it, I think this is something we're going to be talking about now for weeks and months to come. I'm worried this is a war that we're going to cover for a long time now. What do you think?
Yes, and I think that beyond the conflict that I hope will end, and the trauma from this, if these hostages are ever returned home, and I don't know that they will be or that they will be alive, how they will live with that for the rest of their lives. Children who have seen the most horrible of things and the most horrible of things that have been done to them and to women and to the elderly. The rippling effects, the trauma from this is going to last for generations. More Jews were killed over the weekend than at any other time in the history of my people since the Holocaust.
People on this are entrenched there in Israel, in Gaza. Here, we're seeing rallies today in Vancouver, across Canada. How do you talk about this and try to humanize both sides of this conflict? And I'm wondering in particular if you can really understand what life has been like for people who live in Gaza.
I believe I can. I have been a proponent of a coexistence and a two-state solution my entire professional career, I would say since I was an adult and began to understand life in Israel, I believe deeply that the Palestinian people have a right to coexist on this land that is sacred to both Jews and Arabs. I've worked for that my entire career. This is not that. This is not a political struggle. This is massacres and murder and terrorism, and there is a difference.
Explain why you think this isn't a political struggle. We heard from someone earlier in the show that said this is and I'm at risk of summarizing to simplicity, simplifying it too much. He said, this is what happens when people in Gaza live in the conditions they live in.
Is that what happens? That you rip children from their parents' arms, that you murder their siblings in front of them, that you take Holocaust survivors hostage? Is that political struggle? I don't think so. I think that that's terrorism. I know that is terrorism, that is the most heinous of crimes if anyone were to ever do that, and I have spoken out against it. There are extremists on all sides, and extremism and violence like this should never, ever be justified or tolerated. So you can't call this a political struggle. We have to call it what it is. This is terrorism, and that's a gentle word.
So when you pray right now, what do you pray for?
I pray that these children are returned to their families, that families are reunited in home. I pray that the innocents in Gaza are safe. And I pray that they have the leadership, and I pray that the Israeli people have the leadership to see them through this intractable situation in a non-violent way. Violence will solve none of this. That does not mean that Israel does not have a right to defend itself. It absolutely must and does. But this will not be resolved at the end of a gun. This will have to be resolved by two peoples sitting down and recognizing that they both love this land. But it will only be resolved when they both also recognize that they are human beings and they love life as well. And I know that that's what's necessary.
Sorry to interrupt there. And closer to home, how do you support these people in your congregation who are dealing with loss? So
we have about 1,000 households in my congregation and more than a dozen or so Israeli families with direct family members in Israel right now. We called all of them. But everybody in my congregation knows somebody who at least knows somebody, if not directly, in Israel, a friend, a colleague, a family member. And so we have opened up every opportunity we can for communication with them to provide support. We're raising money for immediate needs, of course, to the extent that we can do anything from here to provide the kind of medical supplies and the shelter that is needed. People have been displaced from their homes. And we're rallying tomorrow night in solidarity, a community gathering. I'm not calling it a rally. It's a solidarity gathering at 5 o'clock at Jackpool Plaza, not just for the Jewish community. I hope that all people in Vancouver who believe in human rights, who believe that terrorism is terrorism and that heinous crimes should never be justified like this, will come out in support of our community. We feel very alone right now. We feel like, and I'm going to say this very bluntly, that they're killing Jews again, and the world doesn't seem to care. And that hurts deeply.
Okay, Dan, we'll leave it there for now, and I appreciate you taking time today to talk with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.